Hello everybody, how are you? Guys, I'm going to do a video about Long Beach, California. So many people are asking about it, and they are primarily asking a lot, or one of the reasons is I was talking so much about Signal Hill. And they're like, why are you spending all these videos, all this time on Signal Hill? It's very interesting. But it's such a small area of it's such a small area of the Long Beach, section of Southern California. Why don't you do a thing on Long Beach? Well, of course, I've been meaning to get to Long Beach, but Signal Hill just was so much fun. You know what I mean? So we did like I said, a community spotlight on Signal Hill. This is a community spotlight video on Long Beach, California. If you don't know where that is, because I know there's one on the East Coast, Long Beach, California is south of Los Angeles. It's one of the biggest seaports in the world. Yeah, it's a huge seaport, and so thousands and millions of shipping containers come through there every day, probably 3 million a day. I don't know. But let's talk about a little bit about the community of Long Beach, and then later we'll get into other videos. We'll expand on the Long Beach experience. This one will be just the basics. So why is it called Long Beach? Now, remember that the Spanish are the ones that came up along the coast and settled much of this area, much of the Southern California area with the missions. And of course, Long Beach is obviously along the coast. It's north of San Diego, south of Los Angeles. So they called it Long Beach because at that time, before the area was dredged, the seafloor was relatively shallow. So you could almost walk from an anchored ship onto the shore from very far out into the water, but you had to be relatively tall. So only people with long legs could really keep their head above water long enough to walk into the shore. Now you say, well, didn't they have little rowboats or little boats to access the shore? Yeah, but they just thought it would be fun. And plus, you got to remember, a lot of these sailors have been at sea for 4 or 5 years in a row without a shower. And to jump into the water, it might have been, historians differ on this, but sometimes a historian will say the captain would order them because they stunk so bad. He'd say, Nathan, jump in that water, you stink. Of course, it'd be in Spanish. So perhaps it'd be a Neapolitano, va a la mer porque stinky. None of that made any sense, by the way. So the long-legged people would walk in, and hence the name Long Beach. And I'm surprised that the Spaniards didn't really set it up more as a fort, because it's perfectly situated. But nonetheless, they had their reasons. Like for example, the reason that LA is the downtown area is 20 miles, whatever it is, inland, 15, 20 miles. Is because in those days, pirates would hit the coastal towns on a regular basis. So the idea was that no pirate is going to hike it into where downtown LA is now and attack the town, and that was a good move. So that's the reason for the name. So what is going on in Long Beach? Well, like I said, it's a major seaport, and it originally grew through a number of other industries. So one of the earlier ones, in the late 1700s, the amusement park industry started to grow. And different attractions. I guess some people just call them these days the attraction industry or the amusement industry. And for example, today you have the Queen Mary, the original Queen Mary that you can get on and take a tour. They at one time had the Spruce Goose airplane. I don't know if it's still there. I don't think it's still there. That Howard Hughes flew. Big giant airplane. They have the Aquarium of the Pacific. They have so many. They have the big race down there, the Long Beach Grand Prix. There's so many attractions So it's really a tourist destination, and this started back in the 1700s. So one of the first was when the original Spanish ship coming up from the down below south past San Diego up to Long Beach, it actually wrecked in a storm. So the Spanish, they really were doing these missions, of course, to spread the word of God. We know that. That's why the missions. But also to get some money. We need some money to run this thing up in here, okay? They need some cash, some Benjamins, some moolah, some green. And so because the original ship wrecked, they then sent another ship to tow it ashore, and they turned it into an amusement, an attraction. Okay? And so they then started charging money. But really, the only people that were around were the original natives, the Tongva, who had been in the area for, this is true, 10,000 years. And within a very short time of being exposed to European diseases, their numbers were diminished by huge amounts. So thank you, European explorers, for that. That is sarcasm. So they pulled the ship ashore, and the first thing they had to think of was an attractive name that would appeal to people that lived in the area. And of course, this is when the Spanish first showed up, so there was a Native Americans living in the area, the Tongva, as I imagine, as I described, that they wanted them to go on the ship. And I don't know what the money situation was, but they needed cash. So I think if you were a Native American and had something to trade, they would probably trade that and then use those goods, all right, ship them back to Spain and sell them in Spain and get the cash for the crown, the Spanish crown. So, let's say there's in the Long Beach area maybe 1,000 Tongva, so you need, let's say, 30% to go through the attraction at least once a month. So they probably sold yearly memberships to the shipwreck. And they had to give it a kind of a dynamic name, kind of a scary name. Like you've heard that song, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald? Well, the name of this ship was the San Carlito. So that has almost a whimsical sound to it. So probably they changed the name to something along the lines of Diablo. Curse of the San Diablo. Which San Diablo, directly translated, would mean Saint Devil. And maybe they did that because it has a yin and yang type of feel to it. I don't know if this is actually what happened, but they changed the name to have a dynamic, almost dangerous feel, so that, when you go on these rides at amusement parks that almost kill you, well, that's the feeling they wanted. They wanted people to feel fear going through the attraction, of course, like a haunted house. Like in your hometown, where they might have a haunted house. Well, this would be haunted house times 1,000. Okay? And so that's how they originally started the amusement or attraction industry in Long Beach that continues to this day. Was that original wreck of the, what they changed the name to, the San Diablo. So it's not something new. You're looking at maybe 1750, 1760, right? Well, actually, probably 1710, 1720, right? Really, is when that first ship, because I said it was the first ship, that was the early 17th. Guys, that's going way back. That's going back almost more than 300 years that the Spaniards have been establishing amusement parks and attractions in that area. And then later, like I said, the port, and then also, believe it or not, there's lots of oil fields below Long Beach. So there's oil being drilled in Long Beach right now. And you can be driving down the road and you'll see an oil derrick pumping a drilled well. And they have them everywhere. The mayor has an oil well in his office, or her office. I'm not sure who's in the office right now, but the mayor's office has an oil well inside the office. And so you're sitting there. I've sat there talking to the mayor. This was a while back, but I was talking to the mayor, and this oil well is pumping oil right beside my head. It's going up and down. You've seen those out in the Texas landscape. Well, they have those all through Long Beach. to this day. In fact, there's some gas stations, they pump the oil out of the ground, they refine it right in one of the bays of the gas station that they're not using. Let's say it's a 4-bay gas station for repairs, 4 bays. They don't use them all. They use 3. They use 1 for oil change. They use 1 for brakes. And the 3rd one is for the owner to park his 1967 LTD that he thinks will get him the ladies. But really, it just makes them fear for their safety. So that 4th bay is they will process the oil right in the bay and into gasoline, guys, and pump it into your car. And what you get for that is it costs $1.75 a gallon because it's so cheap to make right there on site. Now you can even ask for a custom blend, and they have a whole menu there of different gasoline blends that you can order. And if you're on the inside, if you're a local, if you're a Long Beach native, if you're an insider, you'll know how to order from the secret menu. Okay, so you can create a super custom blend that is not offered on the main menu. And it's almost like ordering direct from the chef when you go to a sushi restaurant and they just make it prepared for you to your specifications right in front of you. So that is really the quick snapshot of Long Beach. Well, guys, we're going to have so many videos on Long Beach because it's such an important part of California and such a cool place. I mean, it's really neat because it's the 7th largest city in California, and yet when you drive around, it has this small town kind of feel, and the downtown or uptown, whatever they call it, has lots of bars and restaurants and all kinds of people getting wild and drinking more than they should and falling down, and then the police pick them up and they try to balance them. They say, can you walk home? And they go, yeah, I can walk home. And then they trip over their shoelace and the police say, get in the back of the car. And they get in the back of the car and they take them down to the station. So, but that's most of America on a Friday night. So guys, come on back. We're going to teach you the secret handshake, okay, that everybody in Long Beach knows. We're going to teach you how to meet sexy, single, available people in Long Beach if you're interested in dating. I'm going to get into the movie stars that have come from Long Beach and other famous people. We're going to look at movies that are based on or shot in Long Beach. We're going to look at songs that are about or were recorded in Long Beach. And so much more. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I mean, when I got up this morning, I knew I was going to make this video. I could feel the heart, my pumping in my chest, and it was going to come out of my body. I was going to go down to the emergency, and just like those cartoons where they show somebody in love and the heart is coming out of their body about 3 or 4 feet, that's how I felt thinking about making this video. And I thought, I might have to go down to emergency, and they're going to have to cut my heart out of my body and then put it back in and put some padding in there, maybe some attic insulation to keep it from happening again. I mean, that's how excited I was. Come on back.